The tale opens with Lee Tu, a man who has lost all feeling and can no longer sense what is real. He does good for others and gets thanked for it. Yet he feels nothing. No joy, no pain, no anger, no sadness. And even doctors have checked him, confirmed he's not a psychopath, but still can't find the reason for what is wrong with him. Sitting alone in the park, lost in his own sadness, Tu is approached by an old man who tells him he has lost his wallet. Tu has no idea what's going on. When the old man heard the news, he became so sad that he cried because he had to go to Seoul for a wedding, but his phone and wallet were gone. So Tu felt sorry for him and decided to help by buying his ticket since he was going there too. The old man was so happy he promised to pay him back for the help he received. As they climb aboard the train, Tu sits quietly, lost in thought. Out of every way he's tried to fight the boredom in his life, helping this old man feels like the one that truly matters. Sitting in his seat, he drifts deeper into thought, wondering how borrowing from a loan shark would make him feel. Right then, the old man next to him speaks up and tells him not to even think about that crazy idea. Tu is startled and confused by how the old man seems to know what he was thinking, and soon after, the old man asks to see Tu's hand and begins examining it closely. As Tu's confusion deepens at the old man's strange actions, he suddenly seems to understand something and, when Tu asks what it is, gently taps his hand and tells him to smile more often so that everything will naturally work itself out. These words just make Tu feel even more lost. He thinks to himself that he'll only laugh if something truly funny happens, but the old man answers as if he's read his mind and says it back, making Tu feel even creepier. The old man goes on to say that a smile isn't just about finding something funny, but about choosing to smile. He urged Tu to smile, but no matter how hard he tried, his face refused to soften. The old man scrunches up his face into a silly grin and asks if it's funny. This finally makes Tu chuckle a little. Seeing this, the old man tells Tu to learn how to read expressions from him. Tu says no, convinced he can handle it by himself. Even so, the old man tells him to memorize these words, for they will come in handy later on. Tu thinks the statement is odd, and the old man admits he can't say any more. Tu's eyes slowly drift shut, one by one. Suddenly, a driver nudged him awake to tell him they had reached Seoul. Confused, Tu asks the driver about the old man, and the driver explains that the seat next to him had been empty the whole time. Tu stares in shock at the seat, suddenly seeing money left behind. Clutching the cash, he steps off the train, still staring at his hands like he can't believe it's real. He wondered if the old man was just a dream. As he takes in the sudden loud announcement from behind about Di Kwang winning the year's Best Actor award and the crowd erupting in cheers, Tu thinks quietly to himself about what it really means to be an actor. He wonders how real actors can let feelings flow through them as easily as breathing, living out wild moments and becoming every emotion they show. He sees Duong's son as a self-made star and wonders how great his life must be. But watching the actor smile, Tu starts to doubt if that smile is real. While this is happening, he also thinks back to the old man. He tries to copy that funny face he just saw. Right then, he notices a strange glow wrapping around the actor. Confusion crushes him as he fights to make sense of the chaos around him. Suddenly, he feels something strange, like a hint of feeling starting to grow inside him. He remembers the old man telling him to draw in with his right hand and breathe out with his left, and now that he looks at his own hand, he decides to do just that. The moment he acts, a tidal wave of feelings crashes over him all at once. His face starts to run with tears. As he speaks, the actor turns his pain over missed chances into fuel, and with that fire burning bright, he accepts the award for Best Actor with a heart full of thanks. As the speech goes on, Tu's feelings grow stronger and stronger. For the very first time, he lets tears flow freely, and in that sudden release, he discovers how amazing it feels to finally feel something. Tu sat on the road and started sobbing so hard that the people passing by stopped to look at him with confusion. A man stepped forward to calm him down and ask why he was crying. Tu wiped away his tears and muttered that the whole situation was totally crazy. Then, 3 days later, Tu stood at his bathroom sink with a strange glow humming around his hand. The moment he took in the yellow aura, his mood instantly snapped to anger. He pointed at his reflection in the mirror and scolded himself like he was angry at someone who cut him off in traffic. After a while, he drank in a blue glow that instantly turned his rough mood into a polite and gentle one. Then he swallowed a pink glow that made him frown and mutter to himself while it worked its magic. For 3 days straight, he kept working on these feelings. But they still didn't feel quite right, for these strange feelings called wisps were like human emotions burning together, and by copying and wearing them like masks, Tu could borrow the emotions of others. The scene shifted to Tu walking down the road, lost in thought about how his power was limited because he could only grab one wisp at a time and had to copy them from live shows instead of off-screen sources. Even so, he began stepping out into the fresh air more often, enjoying the change as he realized that life had finally become fun again. He felt thankful to the old man for giving him this power, guessing he might be a hermit or a martial arts master, but he didn't care. He suddenly remembered his schedule and saw that the 10th date was marked on his calendar. He took a part-time job where he pretended to be the groom's best friend at a wedding. Remembering the moment he let himself cry, he realized that feeling was far stronger than any other emotion he had ever known. It held a depth that went beyond just strong feelings, and he knew the real difference was the audience watching. Knowing this, he felt sure the big event ahead was going to be a blast. Tu worked for a group that paid actors to pretend to be someone else. He was hired as the groom's friend for a wedding on October 10th, and the boss told everyone not to overdo their acting before the big day. As Tu watched the bride and the guests at the party, he quietly figured out exactly how to play his part. He realized that the key to these acting roles was keeping the right vibe by truly pretending to be a good friend. Once he made up his mind, he sparked a red glow in his hand, hoping it would make his feelings feel truly real. While the groom stood there waiting, he couldn't stop thinking about the moment Tu would finally walk up the aisle. Not long after, the groom and his uncle stepped aside to have a talk. When the uncle found out the groom had hired a fake friend to act as his friend, he flew into a rage and started scolding him. The groom tried to quiet the uncle, who wouldn't listen and insisted that actors are just pretending to be real, which he said was a waste of money. As the uncle's shouting continued, Tu rushed in to greet the groom, whose real name was Kwak Chunik, with such energy and warmth that it felt like a reunion with a long-lost friend, leaving Chun-sik totally shocked by the genuine joy in Tu's face. Tu gave him a big congratulations for his wedding, but Chun-sik just stood there looking confused, thinking Tu was acting way too wild. This made him start to think his uncle might actually be right. Just as he was about to speak, Chun's mom came over and called out to him, completely unaware that he had hired a fake friend. When Tu spotted his mom, he gave a polite hello and quickly made up a convincing story about how he got there. Seeing Chunik was scared, Tu gave him a quick sign to take a breath and relax. Suddenly, Chunik noticed his uncle coming back and felt his heart race even faster. He knew his uncle would quickly see that Tu wasn't his true friend. But when the uncle arrived, he casually asked Chun-sik why he was staring at his friend like that. That surprise left Chun-sik even more puzzled than before. He stared at Tu in total shock while Tu just smiled back with calm confidence. For just a split second, Chunik started to wonder if he had really ever met Tu. Chunik's heart raced with pure terror as he stared at his uncle. His uncle stared back with a steady look that made Chunik's mind race in a panic. With no way to fix the world Tu had broken, he frantically dug through his past memories while his mind raced under the crushing weight of it all. Chunik, trembling from shock, gazed at Tu and felt a sudden, terrifying realization as if he were dying. Just then, Tu reached out his hand, making Chunik feel even more nervous. Tu smiled and gave a casual nod, letting them know they'd meet again later. Chunik stood frozen for a long time, not knowing if he should reach out and take the hand offered to him. After giving it some thought, he finally reached out to shake Tu's hand, forced a smile, and thanked him for coming to the party. After shaking hands, Tu realized that Chunik had thrown everything into his improvised plan, and that bold effort was exactly what got them through. The scene shifted to the bride and groom standing together as they officially became husband and wife, and the guests cheered wildly. Tu also jumped up and cheered for them with all his heart. As the guests chattered happily, the bride felt so joyful that she started telling her feelings to Chunik. But her curiosity quickly turned to Tu, and Chunik felt a knot of worry tighten in his chest as he saw his wife gesture toward him without a single hint of suspicion. So he hurried to assure her that he would explain everything later. As he stared at Tu, he couldn't believe that his mother, uncle, and now everyone else were all buying into the trick. He forced himself to stay calm and hold it in, hoping the song would end soon so he could leave and forget the strange person he no longer remembered. Chunik grew so lost in his worries that the bride couldn't help but notice his distress. Right then, the host started shouting out the news for the pair. She told the bride's side of the tale, hinting that the groom must be bursting with pride after hearing those sweet memories, while the guests laughed. The host then added that the groom's side must keep up the pace. This look made Chunik and the bride look worried. She said Chunik had been wildly popular in college, and hearing that made Chun-sik's panic grow even worse. Then the host turned to the crowd and asked if anyone wanted to share a memory of the groom. The bride, suddenly very worried, asked the host what he was doing. While Chun-sik's heart raced in fear that his secret would be ruined, Tu stepped up like a hero to speak, leaving Chun-sik completely stunned. The bride smiled at him, thanked him for stepping in so quickly, and asked for a quick introduction. Tu stepped forward with a kind smile and told us he was a friend from Chunik's university club. He called it the travel club, joking that they never moved a step but just sat around drinking, which left Chunik totally stunned. Tu kept going, saying Chunik worked harder than anyone else and, even though he didn't talk much, everyone in the club loved him. He even bragged about Chunik's good looks and how he'd helped countless friends, including himself, change their lives, all while Chunik spun a perfect tale of his time in the travel club. Suddenly, he felt a mix of love, boldness, and deep yearning rising inside him. He began to realize that his 20s, once seen as empty and lonely, were actually packed with memories, even the ordinary ones. He finally understood he still had friends, but hearing all of this from Tu left Chunik completely stunned. Tu thanked Chunik, saying his life had changed for the better, and he truly wished the newlyweds well. At that moment, Chunik simply couldn't hold back his feelings anymore. His heart swelling with joy, he thanked Tu again for showing up to the ceremony. Then the two of them hugged each other tight. The scene slowly shifted to a later time at the party, where Tu was eating. As he ate, he thought the meal felt even better than short ribs eaten alone. Yet something still felt incomplete, bringing back memories of the dog Wong days and leaving him wondering what to do next until Chunik called out to him. Chunik stepped forward and offered his apologies for missing him before. He said Tu always wore a hoodie, so it was hard to remember his face after all that time. He remembered the days when they drank 4 bottles of soju together and asked to stay in touch more often, thanking him again for coming. Upon hearing this, Tu gave a serious apology and admitted to himself that he could never lie unless it was part of a performance. After saying sorry, he bowed his head and truly wished the newlyweds all the best. Both Chin-sik and the bride were stunned by what they saw. As Tu walked away, fearing that staying longer would crush him with guilt, Chun-sik stood frozen in shock before collapsing, leaving the bride terrified for his life. Just as Tu stepped out, he bumped into a stranger and quickly said sorry. He reached over, laid a firm hand on his shoulder, and told him to stop right then. It turned out the man was Chunik's uncle, and he couldn't believe everything that just happened was made up. In the next scene, we meet Gark Im-ho, Chunik's uncle, a drama writer with such a sharp eye for spotting talent that casting directors fear him, earning him the nickname the acting appraiser. And even he was briefly fooled into thinking his nephew's friend was strikingly handsome, a mistake that came from how To moved with a shifting, mask-like presence in every gesture. In-ho stared so hard at Taegu that he sank into deep thought, calling the whole thing absurd since he was the only one who'd seen such a strange change. Even though he knew it was fake, he stayed confused all through the wedding because the boy acted so naturally that In-ho realized he had to be either a beginner or someone who wasn't an actor at all. Meanwhile, Tu felt confused as his uncle stared at him with such intensity, while In-ho kept his thoughts to himself but decided he wouldn't leave things hanging. So he finally broke the silence to ask Tu which agency he was signed with. Tu, baffled by the jargon, asked what ad-lib and signed actually meant. In-ho shook off the confusion, telling them there was no point in playing games since they were both pros, and couldn't understand why someone his caliber would even consider doing that there. Upon hearing these questions, Tu asked who In-ho was, and In-ho revealed that he was Chun Six's uncle. Tu bowed respectfully, but In-ho cut him off, saying he already knew everything there was to know. He explained that he had seen almost every rookie that year and wondered if Tu came from an unknown academy or a theater background. After pausing for a moment, Tu replied that he was just a high school graduate with no job. Hearing this, In-ho thought the boy was still playing tricks and secretly noted how many ways he found to keep his distance, then simply said out loud that Tu was a funny guy. While In-ho couldn't stop staring at Tu's striking looks, he knew that blank expression would soon come alive, so he decided to take him and shared how he wrote the drama Disbelief Hell, urging Tu to check it out on his phone. Tu obeyed and looked at his phone, even though he had already seen that show, and In-ho, seeing no surprise on Tu's face, figured it was just normal for someone in the industry and wondered how strange it would be to find a drama writer there. All of a sudden, Tu got hit by a weird shock. After stuffing himself with too much food, his stomach started to rebel. Seeing In-ho's worried look, he told his friend to relax, saying that even though he's been missing shots lately, this project is actually great. But when In-ho touched him, Tu felt even more uncomfortable. In-ho handed Tu his number for a new drama, and after Tu promised to get back to him, the pair exchanged a few last words before Tu hurried off. Afterward, In-ho made a call and started talking about Tu with so much excitement. On the other side, Tu was shown struggling under the weight of a swollen stomach. Not long after, a fresh view showed that Tu had gotten a message from his agency. The agency boss broke the news that a big complaint had ruined the deal, meaning he'd get paid but could never work with them again. Tu barely reacted to the message that fired him, yet inside he felt deep regret and knew it was all his own fault. Even though fooling people into thinking he was a real guest was playing with their hearts, he still loved that thrill. Thinking about it, he saw that immersion needed something to react to, but he knew that whole idea was wrong. He flipped on the TV to watch a drama, deciding to waste his time on his own show instead of hurting others. Dwang Sun's drama made Tu wonder what he should do next. As he kept staring, he felt the need to do something again. realizing that just gazing into the mirror had stopped being fun. He started whispering to himself about needing to work with others without hurting anyone, and his eyes went wide with shock when he saw a boy hold a girl's hand and then hug her. This moment brought Inho's earlier advice about sharing audition details back to his mind. He stared at his phone with deep thought while Inho, on the other end, spoke with wild excitement about Tu's amazing talent, insisting that anyone would fall for him and that he was far better than the previous choice. He insisted that the other person stop refusing and just add Tu to the audition list, promising to stay completely away from the project if his call was wrong. The person on the line asked for the boy's name, and Inho agreed to give it once he knew the answer. At the other end, the frustrated caller called him a clueless pig and then hung up right away. This made Inho look furious. Just then, Inho got a call from Tu, thinking it was the same person who had hung up, so he answered in a furious, shouting fit, blaming them for hanging up by mistake and calling back. Tu calmly introduced himself as the very person Inho had been waiting for, confirming he was Garkinho the writer, which instantly put Inho at ease. Tu then asked when and where to audition, showing how much he wanted to become an actor. When Inho heard those words, he smiled because he hadn't expected Tu to ever call. In the next scene, the story moves to a movie set by the road where Uncle suggests Tu learned acting tricks by watching the older performers work. Not far away, a man in glasses flips through some papers and starts to look more and more worried. Seeing his frustration, the uncle insists that the person he's recommending is truly talented, especially pointing out his amazing skills and advice. The man with glasses bristles in annoyance, insisting he held a closed audition for a reason, has already picked his final group, and will not add someone with no experience, so he demands the uncle stop being stubborn. But the uncle keeps pushing, asking him to just sign up for an audition, explaining he isn't trying to force him but only wants him to try out once. Even though the man who wears glasses keeps refusing, the uncle gets angrier and angrier, asking if they can just hold the audition in secret as long as the ratings stay high. The man in glasses starts thinking hard. Then the story jumps back to show him in a room with someone else reading a script. In this paper, you'll find the title Ash City, which was directed by Ji Chongan and written by Ginho. The man reading the script looks so amazed, he can't believe the writer has finally found his magic again. The man with glasses nods that it seems like a good choice, even though he won't call it better than Disbelief Hell, despite the other guy's strong belief that it is. As the man slides over a packet of promised travel money, the bespectacled man looks shocked by the sum and asks why so much, but the man just laughs it off, saying that compared to the hard work of finding a new actor, this is nothing at all. He also hints that the audition will happen behind closed doors. Next, the conversation turns to inviting Kim Won to take on the role of Odbok. The man looks happy, saying he and the producer are on the same page and might work together on new projects soon. He brushes off the pressure, calling it just a chance to see what Kim Won can do, and those words clearly upset the man wearing glasses. As the flashback fades away, the story snaps back to the present, where Golan, the man with glasses, quietly stares at the script. The story then brings in Kim Won, a former idol who became an actor thanks to Do Yunop, the boss of YKB Entertainment. It also explains the part of Ode Bak, a gambling crazy troublemaker in the crime show Grey City who steals every scene he's in. Lost in thought, Kael Gun sees this moment as his final chance to build a reputation for Kim Won that brings both fame and money, and he admits the effort isn't all that bad. While Chilon is lost in thought, his uncle shouts loudly at him for ignoring him. But before the uncle can speak again, Chilon suddenly snaps and tells him to come to his senses. The uncle stood frozen, completely baffled by the sudden explosion of anger. But Cheon keeps pushing him to snap out of it and stop living in the past, calling him clueless and pointing out that he hasn't been getting anything lately, which finally makes the uncle punch Cha Gun. Cole Gun asks if it's truly ridiculous for a person over 40 to have nothing left but their own pride. The uncle quietly asks if he's done talking, but Kael Guan keeps screaming that he ruined everything since Disbelief Hell, and the crowd around them gets so nervous they start telling each other to step in. Kylan keeps blaming the uncle for pushing actors into important parts, but the uncle insists he only said yes when they showed talent and says he isn't responsible for what they did later. He points to Chilin's stubborn refusal to admit fault, and even when others try to pull them apart, Kael Gun keeps pushing, asking about Lee Tu and the money the uncle took, until the uncle snaps back by questioning why Cole Gun won't let anyone audition. And in the heat of the fight, the uncle drops Kim Hwan's name, making Chun stop in his tracks. Noticing the tension, the uncle immediately blames him for secret schemes and warns that the newcomer might become a threat to Kim Hwan's reputation. After a short quiet moment, Chaolon sneers and gives in to the audition, but he shouts that he will make a big scene about the uncle's bad choice right in front of everyone. The uncle warns that Chagon might be the one humiliated, but Chagon brushes it off and bets that whoever loses their round will quit the film industry right after filming. The story moves to Tu's apartment where he packs a bag and some cash, telling himself it's enough to get him through an emergency. He steps out with a determined heart, starting his new journey. He hops on a bus, steps off later, and tries to grab a taxi. The driver looks doubtful about whether Tu has enough cash, but Tu assures him he does. Once inside the taxi, the driver asks where we're going, and when we say Kungwon Land, he looks so scared and confused that he even thinks about telling Tu to get out right now. Next, Tu steps into a gambling den where the noise and chaos feel overwhelming to him. It turns out the scary spot is Kangwon Land, a place normal folks are usually afraid to visit. Tu remembers the mysterious man's strange smile and comes here to learn new feelings so he can give his audition his best shot. As he mirrored the feelings of everyone around him, he found one special emotion that finally gave him the courage to walk onto the audition stage. The story shifts, and a huge car rumbles down the road. Inside, the driver is speaking on the phone. Once the call finishes, the actor in the car turns to ask who the person on the other end was. The driver tells the actor that Gi Cole-gun, the director of Gray City, is behind the call, leaving the actor wondering why the director reached out. The driver tells me the director might force him to act blind during the audition, so he was told to practice really hard. The actor replies by saying they've already talked about this before. The driver thinks the director probably wants the audition to look more real. He then tells the actor to stride in with confidence and prove his skills, exactly as he always does. The actor stops to think, then smiles as he figures out his next move. He thinks about how being a straight-laced guy makes him feel totally unlike the wild character Odebach. Right then, the girl in the car drops the name Kim Won and says he's the perfect match for Odebach. Won asks what she means and smiles while saying her words hurt, but she laughs and teases him until he suddenly speaks seriously, and when she looks at him, she sees his face has changed completely as he repeats that his feelings are hurt now in an angry voice, asking if she finds it funny and criticizing how people think they are equal to a famous celebrity just because of a few casual moments together. She gets scared when he suddenly gets too intense. The driver tries to stop Won and warns him not to talk that way. Won gently pats the girl's head and keeps explaining that for some folks, the thrill of taking selfies with a star is more important than fixing their own unhappy lives. He wonders if that isn't just pathetic, noting that for these folks, the star of their life isn't them, but the famous person they work for. Feeling crushed, the girl stammers an apology while Won keeps talking, causing the driver to yell at him to stop. All through it, Won keeps a big grin on his face. Once he's done, he casually asks both of them if his acting was good. The girl is so shaken she starts crying and can't say a word. Won then explains he was just testing out a crazy persona to shake off people who only admire him for his looks, since he was told to practice making things up on the spot even though it wasn't needed for his role as Odebach. He gently tells the girl not to cry, promising that he wasn't being mean because he was just trying out different feelings. But the driver rudely orders Won to apologize to the girl, and Won quickly agrees. The road manager grumbles to himself that Won is a pain in the neck and secretly wishes for him to fail the audition. But he admits that talent rules in this game, and sadly, Kim Jan has it in spades. As the scene shifts, we are whisked away to the big audition day in the Gray City. The uncle takes a good look at the scripts. It turns out the loser of the bet must finish the project and quit the industry. The uncle thinks that even though pride made things blow up, he feels it's still right to give the part to the actor who is truly better. As the moment drags on, the uncle starts to get jitters thinking about how Tu will do. But then Kim Won pops up, calling out to the manager in a super chill and happy mood while saying the whole place feels totally wild. After flashing a bright smile, Kim Won, the new actor taking on the role of Odebach, warmly greets the seniors, shares his excitement about working with them, and ends with a burst of fighting spirit. As he speaks, the other candidates standing there begin to feel a heavy chill of unease. Right then, a voice calls out to Won, but he shushes them with a quick finger to his lips. He dropped a casual hint about food to the manager and then walked away. The uncle watches him and realizes that this must be Kim Jan, the rookie who first appeared in a web drama early last year. Even though it's his first time meeting him in real life, he instantly gets why everyone says he's a genius. To him, Won looks as rare as a crane among chickens, with energy that flows like a shimmering jewel. He realizes that most people let their special spark fade when they fail, so he thinks Kim Jan must never have faced that darkness. The clock ticks back 15 minutes to the moment the audition starts. All the candidates were swept into the big hall for their audition. Kael then offers the uncle a final chance to cancel their bet before the uncle firmly declines. Hearing this, Kael warns that he will regret it, then asks about Tu, wondering where Lee Tu is and if he has already arrived. The uncle stays silent, which makes Kael furious and demand a reply instead of just acting cool, until the uncle calmly announces that Tu has arrived. Shortly after, Tu stepped into the hall. Watching this, the uncle thinks about how confident Cheel looks and remembers that Jelen was sure Kwacho, who is now seen as a has-been, could never find someone as clever as Kim Won. But what shows up instead feels like something totally different. It felt like all the world's failures had piled up to create a pool of pure darkness. And when Kael turned to see the entrance, he was left completely stunned. 2 steps in like a frozen stranger, his eyes holding a dark and icy chill. A cold, faint smile creeps across his shadowed face. Everyone sitting there freezes in shock at his arrival, and Kael feels the tremor hit him hardest of all. 2 steps onto the stage and acts like a psychopath, really bringing that crazy behavior to life with every word he says. Chill watches in total confusion, not knowing which character 2 is playing. 2 keeps playing on without missing a beat. Watching him, Juan says it looks like 2 has totally become the character. Meanwhile, Kael gazes at the uncle and quietly wonders how such a wonderful person like 2 could have ended up with him. Then the uncle walks up to 2 and says that even though he's a little late, he's happy 2 showed up for the audition. He insists they can't go on like this and reveals that 2 has to do something before the audition. When 2 asks about it, the uncle tells him to wash his face and change his clothes, reminding him that he isn't the only one trying out. As the next part of the story plays out one by one, every candidate who steps up to audition is turned away. After this, the uncle thinks quietly about his big project, Gray City, and realizes it's a noir story. As the story goes on, it says that when people hear about noir, they usually picture rough and dirty talk mixed with violent fights that tear people apart as if they were raw fish. But Quaquinho says that even with those pieces, a true noir story is still missing something. He believes that the most powerful force in noir is desire. He saw fantasy violence and action only as tools to unlock deep emotions, so he needed an actor who could truly feel and show those layers. And the one who fit this requirement perfectly was Lee too. So while thinking this, the uncle looks toward Chio and wonders in his mind if Chio thinks he did all of this just to fight him, even as he reflects on how much effort he has put in for 2. He admits that the business treats people like trash if they can't sell, and he knows he can't fix how Chia sees him as a failed salesman with a blown-up ego. Still, he's determined to show that his eye for talent hasn't faded. With the audition almost over, just one person is left standing. As the other judges shout out the name of the final contestant, a smile spreads across Chiel's face, and he yells for the uncle to let 2 try out for the part. Hearing this, the uncle asks if he is sure about it. He adds that it's better than hearing complaints later about 2 failing because he waited too long, and their argument starts to worry the other judges. The uncle warns that setting the bar too high at the start makes it hard to judge the director's chosen actors. But Kael laughs it off as a bad joke and tells him to do whatever he wants as long as he keeps a clear conscience. Kael asks for a quick break to announce they will now audition for the role of Ode de Bach, and the next person called is Lee Tu, the final candidate, who immediately shocks the judges with his presence. As Kael's excitement surges again, his uncle watches him silently from the shadows. With fresh clothes on but his face still icy, Tu introduces himself. Chio smiles and tells the uncle that he clearly put a lot of thought into shaping Tu's image. When the uncle asks what Chiel means, Chiel notices that the uncle says feelings matter most but acts differently, leading Chiel to realize that true acting is driven by emotion. Acting is when a person truly feels a specific emotion and takes a specific action in a particular situation. True acting means you aren't just playing a role, but actually becoming an entirely new person. He sees acting based only on ideas as an empty trick, a fake show put on to hide the fact that he has no real talent. After this, Kael tells Tu to start scene 33 on his signal, warns him that he might add extra lines, and urges Tu to react naturally. The second Kael signals and Tu starts, everyone watching, even Kael himself, is left speechless by what happens next. Lee Tu seems to vanish right before your eyes. Where he used to stand, the air is now heavy with the smell of a broken man, drunk on alcohol, cigarettes, and endless mistakes. In the spot where Tu used to be, a shape that looks like human trash now stands there. Even the judges and the other hopefuls were stunned by such a huge change. In the middle of his act, Tu suddenly points at one of the judges, making the man freeze in fear. He slams his hand on the judge's table, shouts that the money is his own, and pulls the judge's collar so hard with such fierce acting that the judge looks genuinely terrified. The whole room goes wild as people scream and rush to stop him. Suddenly, Kael steps in to ask why Tu keeps asking for cash, and in that moment, he realizes just how real Tu's gambler act is. So real that anyone would instantly want to hire him. Kael can't bring himself to lose to his uncle, so he feels a wave of frustration, unable to accept how the uncle managed to find such an amazing actor. As the scene settles, the audition hall is a complete mess. Overwhelmed by Tu's performance, the furious Kael turns to the uncle and demands to know if he's lost his mind for bringing a real gambler in just to cause chaos. In that instant, you see how a true star brings a character to life. G.I. Cole can only conclude that G.I. Cole is a real gambler, a truth Lee Tu once knew from his own experience. As the story changes, we dive back into the past. Tu steps into a room where a woman is bubbling with excitement, shouting that their scoreboard has finally locked in a solid winning streak. An eye-patched man confidently suggests they start targeting players with water in their names before the game shifts, while the next day a gambler warns that this popular casino game will ruin anyone's money and life, even as he survives on the chaos. And though a woman casually invites a handsome man to sit, the eye-patched man interrupts to remind everyone they are in a serious strategy meeting. Sitting among them is Tu, who admits to the man asking him that this is his very first time playing the game. Tu replies by questioning if he truly looks that way before explaining that this is his first time feeling such a powerful rush of adrenaline, creating an unusual aura that highlights just how intense his emotions have become. Hearing this, the man laughs and says he was bound to end up here, though the excitement soon fades when it's revealed that after 4 days in Quan Land, one of the women never returned. The man with the eye patch tells us she's now stuck in bed from losing too much blood, even though she was just thrilled about playing for another week. Tu instantly recognizes what that means. Remembering the flyers he'd spotted in public restrooms, and knowing the danger, he realizes he can't stay there another second. He says he might be leaving too. The eye patch man says he's moving fast, offers a tip to start with an easier game, and Tu, feeling uneasy, asks if there's one game that stands out the most. After this, Tu vows never to mix with anyone whose mind has been twisted by gambling. Then the story jumps back to now, where the uncle mocks the phrase real gambler, leaving Kael completely confused. The uncle then asks if that's all he has to say about candidate number 85. Chil just gets angrier, shouting that you brought a crazy person to the audition and made a total mess. He even wonders if the man was dragged out of Kangwon land after getting drunk on so much soju. Before the uncle can answer, Tu steps up to apologize to everyone. He admits that getting so lost in his character made him gasp for air and worry he might have caused a scene. He then politely asks if he could try the performance once again. When Kael is stunned by the shocking request, Tu's intense aura fades and he suddenly feels dizzy and weak, while the judges are so impressed by his acting that they start praising him. Kael can't believe Tu changed so suddenly from one moment to the next, and then their uncle suggests they stop for a rest since everyone is too tired to go on. Still annoyed, Kael says he'll do whatever the other guy wants. While the others rest, Kael slips away to use the washroom. As he splashes water on his face, he knows he has to hurry and come up with a plan. Kael starts doubting if they really brought in a real gambler just to cause trouble. He sees he must fix things but can't find a way after watching such a perfect show. For him, it wasn't just pretending. It was becoming a completely different person. As he drifts away in his thoughts, a man in a suit walks up and jokes about how much he seems to be working. The man turns out to be Section Chief Jang from YKB, and though Kael looks shocked at the sight of him, Jang notices the surprise and jokes that Kael already knows what he's about to say. He then spoke up with confidence, insisting that Kim Won was the perfect choice to play Ode de Bak. Chia replies carefully that the plan is risky but tells him not to worry, prompting the chief to ask where his usual confidence has gone. He then stresses that for Won's sake, and given Cha's own standing, Won has to take the role and Cha must see it happen. Chil warns that ordinary acting won't cut it, since the chief saw the show live and knows only a few actors in the whole country could pull off a performance like that. But the boss doesn't care about acting skills. He says it's all about getting results and grabbing the crowd's attention. From this angle, he wonders if candidate number 85 really beats Kim Won. Hearing this, Chil sighs in defeat and admits that a nobody can't beat a former idol, warning that filming will quickly reveal the truth in his reflexes and coordination. But then, suddenly, he realizes something important. Suddenly seeing the light, he shouts that he has found a way for Kim Won to beat Lee Tu. Thinking quickly like a famous star was Hwan's biggest strength, so he decided to challenge him to an improvised acting battle. As the chief sees his old confidence returning and smiles with pride, he tells Kael to go tell Hwan to be kind to Lee Tu, and Kael eagerly agrees. The view changes to show Hwan and Tu staring at each other, ready for a fierce fight over who gets the part. Next, the scene shifts to Tu, where the uncle brings him drinks and tells him to enjoy them while he waits an hour before heading out. Tu finds the drink surprisingly tasty and is a bit surprised by his uncle's unexpected kindness, so he sets those thoughts aside to think about how good he is at acting. All at once, he notices his strong feelings slipping away and a strange dizziness begins to spin him around. He realizes he's worn out and his spirit is fading, so he promises to watch his energy much more carefully next time. As he thinks about it, he finishes drinking all the drinks. Just then, Tu gets a call telling him that battle is about to begin. Then the scene shifts back to Cole speaking to both candidates. He says they were so good at playing Ode de Bak that it was hard to pick a winner, which is why only the two of them got called back. He declares that they will now face off as Ode de Bak in an ABL, apologizing for the sudden request and asking for their understanding. Won jumps at the chance to try this with another actor, saying he's always dreamed of doing just that. Even Tu nods instantly and gives his full agreement. Kael feels a wave of satisfaction as he realizes he has finally guided both of them to this moment. He thinks about how Kim Hwan's acting is flawless, backed by years of experience and a strong career. But when he looked at what Lee Tu had done before, he knew Hwan had no hope of winning a fair fight. So Kael decides he has to set things up so the more skilled player shines. With that decision settled, Kael declares they will start right away. He tells both actors to picture a huge pile of cash sitting right between them. He says Odbak will fight to the death for that money, and now we have two versions of him who both want to prove they are the one to claim the bag. Tu and Hwan stand toe-to-toe, staring each other down. Kael tells them to fight for the bag in 3 minutes, and right when he calls for action, we flash back to the moment he first dared Hwan to face candidate 85 in an ad lab, leaving Hwan shocked to think he would actually do it. Chi said they had to do something different, warning that if they just acted normally, number 85 would take over everything. After giving it some thought, Hwan admits it makes sense and says he's okay with facing him once, though he wonders if number 85 is really that great. He remembered how Kael had insisted that everything was already taken care of with the PD and the section chief. At that moment, the section chief admits things didn't go as planned and tells him to just hang in there for now. Hwan shrugs off the worry with a casual laugh, noting that while he isn't upset, he does have one small request to make. He leans in close to Kael and tells him to watch every move carefully. Kael felt a chill of unease ripple through him as he heard those words. Then Hwan turns and walks off, promising to come back after just a quick rest. The scene returns to the present, where Hwan stands with his acting skills in full control, annoyed that Kael can't tell the difference between him and a beginner like Tu, so he decides to make his choice impossible to miss by just performing. Hwan looks at Tu and thinks he's probably an actor who faked his experience in real casinos. Hwan thinks acting isn't about real life but pure talent, so he takes off his glasses and realizes that only those with instinct, quick thinking, and the courage to survive the industry are truly recognized. He looks like a dazzling diamond while seeing everyone else as just dull coal, convinced that even though they are made of the same stuff, the gap between them is huge. Following that thought, Hwan suddenly throws a hard punch at Tu. He yanks his collar and screams that he wants to die, while secretly believing Tu is just there to make him shine even brighter. The judges look completely stunned by how intense Hwan is. Seeing their reactions, Hwan feels satisfied because this is exactly the kind of response he wanted to get. It becomes clear that when an actor gets fully into their role, they can steer the entire scene like a captain guiding a ship. In that split second, Tu snaps out of character to call Hwan Mr., accusing him of making a fool of him, which leaves Hwan stunned by Taigu's creepy grin, proving that an actor so lost in the role can turn any story into a thrill and any ordinary moment into a masterpiece. The only way to beat the story is to outsmart the script. But when Hwan panics and lets go of Tu's collar, Tu seizes the moment and grabs Hwan instead. The uncle watches with pure delight as Cheel grows more shocked, realizing that someone who can outshine the script is a real treasure, which means Hwan was right that the worn-out rival is just coal while he is the shining star. Usually, the dull person is the one who breaks and fades, but in reality, the opposite happens. Hwan stands frozen with his jaw dropped in shock, so stunned by Tu's amazing act that he completely forgets how to perform himself. Meanwhile, Tu becomes so totally lost in his character that even the cameraman is stunned, watching as Kael frantically tries to burst through the door to escape. Everyone, including the others, sees his sudden shift and shouts at him. But Kael ignores them all, storms out, and calls to a monster. Then the scene moves to the bathroom, where Kael fights to believe the truth even as he knows Tu is a master at acting. He started wondering how Lee Tu could transform so completely into Odbak the moment he began his performance. Once Chia realizes he can't pick between Hwan and Tu, he remembers Adlib and decides that Tu's acting is simply the best. Fear starts to creep in as he keeps thinking the ground beneath his feet suddenly feels like a dirty carpet. The sharp clink of chips falling from his pocket cuts through the air, a sound that simply shouldn't be there. Even the slightest whiff of alcohol makes him feel drunk. Chi bursts into loud laughter at his own reflection in the bathroom mirror, finally admitting he is totally trapped. Right then, Uncle walks into the bathroom. When Kael sees him, he wonders why he's here, but his uncle answers in a way that shows Kael already knows the truth. He tells Kael that since the days when he was an assistant director, he has always come to this spot to sulk whenever things go wrong. Kael knows his uncle is there just to make fun of him, and the uncle doesn't deny it, instead demanding a proper apology while promising to cover for him in front of everyone if Kael agrees to say sorry. Hearing this, Cha's face turns red with anger while his uncle just keeps smiling and having fun. Kael then shouts that he doesn't care about any of that, blaming everything on Kim Hwan's failure. Suddenly, something clicks in his head, and he starts to wonder if Lee Tu isn't a gambler after all, but a genuine rookie actor. When his uncle stayed quiet, Kael began to shout, only for the uncle to reply that his voice sounded nothing like someone ready to say sorry. Kael brushes it aside and starts digging into Tu's past, asking if he studied film or came from a theater group. His uncle brushes off the worries, insisting that none of it counts and calling to a raw diamond he was the first to spot. She sarcastically calls to a hidden master, but then points out that with no experience and no control, he is really just a total beginner. The uncle keeps pushing for more answers while the tension stays high. Then the scene shifts to the YKB Entertainment building that same evening. The CEO and chief stand together in the boss's office. The boss shouts for the head manager, who rushes to answer right away. The CEO, who is a Scorpio, makes it very clear that he believes in the old rule of treating others exactly how they treat you. The chief nods to accept the news, and the CEO immediately wonders if the message failed to reach PDG or if G is making moves on his own. The chief bows and apologizes with no excuse, but the CEO tells him to tell the reporters they have big news and that G.I. Cole is about to take a very long vacation. After praising the chief's work and telling him to give feedback on Kim Won's acting later, the CEO dismisses him, and the chief leaves the room. After he leaves, another man in the office shouts at Won, calling him an idiot. He mocks him by saying that if half-hearted, arrogant people could act, the General Affairs Office would already have gold floors, and right then, the man's name was revealed to be Kwang. The CEO shouts his name in rage, and Kwang answers, speaking directly to him. He warns that weak minds shouldn't be babysit, noting that their poor work shows their complaints will never lead to growth. A truth the CEO clearly understands and quietly agrees with before Kwang asks who hired Oh Debak. A question cut short when the CEO gets a call and shushes him with a finger to his lips. Kwang agrees and stops talking. The CEO picks up the phone and says he didn't expect you to call him personally. When the caller's name is revealed to be Kael, Kwang's face shows shock and he quickly turns angry at the CEO who mentioned him. While on the call, the CEO tells Kael he wants the point quickly and promises to enjoy whatever entertainment is coming next. Cheel replies with a few words that catch the CEO off guard. The CEO then asks him to send the actor over first so they can talk about everything once he arrives. Once the call is over, the CEO sets his phone down on the table and flips his laptop open. Kwang quickly asks what Kael said and wonders if the man is truly seeking his own end. The CEO tells us about the rookie who knocked out Kim Won and says a video is on its way. Hearing this, Kwang gasps in shock and asks how a rookie could possibly beat Kwon. But the CEO simply nods and says, "Let's take a look first." Next, the CEO watches the audition tape where Tu just says hello, but the boss is instantly stunned by how good he acts. Kwang and the CEO kept watching the whole video from the dim laptop screen in their quiet office, listening to the voice that came from it. But the room the two men share starts feeling like a quiet, private movie theater just for them. As the CEO watches him, she asks if acting makes him feel something, and Kwang admits he feels a lot but struggles to find the words to explain it. Hearing this, the CEO looks surprised and says that as a businessman, he can explain it simply by focusing on the talent's worth, so as he makes a call with a greedy smile, he tells the other person that the price will never drop below what it is right now. The next scene starts with Uncle wearing a wide, chilling grin while Tu sits across from him looking perfectly normal. Soon after, the pair lifted their beers and tapped their glasses together in a happy toast. It became obvious that the audition results meant everything. Kwang Ho somehow kept both his pride and his career safe. Lee Tu finally stood at the starting line of his new life as an actor. Above all, the two of them found a bond, as Uncle casually poured drinks for Tu, told him not to worry about the cost, and encouraged him to order whatever he wanted, promising that they would be busy with all sorts of exciting things starting the very next day. Then, excitedly pointing at Tu, he praises him as the best and finds it funny to picture how the other actors will freeze when Tu shows up instead of Kim Won. Hearing this, Tu brings up the script reading, asks if that's where all the actors gather, and adds that he checked it out briefly but wants to be sure. His question makes Uncle suspicious, and he remarks that going this far might be too much, since seniors or academy instructors usually explain such basics. Tu just shakes his head and says he doesn't get what you're talking about. Uncle keeps digging, warning that while everyone loves the genius act, Tu will eventually get caught, and asks if Tu feels embarrassed about studying acting for so long, to which Tu firmly says no, insisting he truly hasn't. Uncle looked a bit stunned and joked that Tu was a natural-born actor since the lines just flowed from him as easily as breathing. At this point, the story reveals that acting truly shines through the face, and that's exactly why Kwang Ho Gun and Do Yunop were so drawn to Lee Tu, for his expressions poured out pure, unhidden feelings. No matter what those words really mean, they always get a reaction from anyone who sees them, so Tu pauses just a moment before telling the truth. Uncle grows impatient to hear Tu's words, and when Tu finally speaks the truth, Uncle stands frozen in shock. He stares in stunned disbelief at Tu, shouting that none of what Tu has shown was real, since Tu never went to an academy or studied theater, admitting he is just an unemployed high school graduate. Still stunned, Uncle pressed him again, wondering why he'd even bother trying if he'd never properly learned the act. 2 takes a sip of beer and says it's so much fun that it's the best experience of his life. That answer strikes Uncle hard, and Kwak In-ho instantly soaks up those words, then starts peppering 2 with questions. 2 shares his story with the eager energy of a kid, explaining how he survives on odd jobs, rehearses acting in his tiny apartment, and even treats his part-time work like a wedding guest as part of his real-life training. He talks about himself with such excitement because he rarely gets to share his story. Yet when you look at his amazing talents, his strange and almost wild journey makes a huge impression. To everyone listening, he looks like a lone warrior who has climbed to the very top by practicing his craft countless times, reaching a skill so high it seems impossible to achieve without giving up everything. And now he watches and listens from his peak while Uncle In-ho stands stunned, wondering how anyone could keep pushing themselves to act even while struggling to survive, because in his mind, 2 is nothing more than a blank canvas waiting to be painted. He believes 2 has scrubbed away all the life's natural colors, leaving him as a bright, blank slate where every new emotion stands out sharply against the emptiness. To 2, the actor looks like a total madman, but he is exactly the kind of crazy presence needed on stage. Uncle In-ho steps out of his thoughts to tell 2 that he has spent at least 10 years honing his craft out of pure passion, and warmly invites him to ask about anything in the industry. Hearing this, 2 looks at him and quietly decides to help him just as he has helped him. Then after a moment of thought, he asks a serious question. Can one really make money in this job? His question leaves Uncle In-ho speechless and stunned. Seeing this, 2 explains he just wants to know if acting alone can support him after he officially becomes a performer. Uncle In-ho jokes that actors are just like gamblers because one big win lets you do whatever you want forever, and he boasts that when he was a big shot, he helped so many people become actors that they could have filled an entire bus. Hearing that, 2's eyes widen in surprise before he breaks into a smile and eagerly asks to start learning the basics. Uncle asks what he means by basics, and 2 explains that he still isn't used to acting. With his beer glass in hand, Uncle In-ho admits he has no words if 2 still feels shortchanged, then jokes that they're definitely going to make it big. Filled with excitement, Uncle In-ho promises to teach him everything from acting books to the usual industry deals. As a reward, he challenges 2 to show during the script reading exactly what real acting really means. As he speaks, he lifts his beer toward 2 with a smile that makes the air feel cold. The next morning, 2 wakes up in his apartment and lies on his bed, lost in deep thoughts about what real acting truly means. He wakes up with a terrible headache from the huge amount of soju and beer Kwak In-ho drank, but he knows it was totally worth it. Later, he leans over the toilet in the restroom, retching from the strain, but even in his misery, he thinks about the treasures from the night before. A break from cooking, priceless lessons from Uncle In-ho, and a promise of great acting guides. 2 checks his phone to find it dead from being left uncharged, and he is shocked to see how many messages he missed while asleep. He opens one specific message from Kim Yong-bae, the assistant director of City of Ashes, who congratulates him on landing the role of Oddbuck and tells him the script reading is just 5 days away, set for next Monday. 2 remembered what Uncle In-ho had said. The script reading is the key to setting the mood and helping everyone know what to expect for the rest of the shoot. 2 sees a pink glow gathering in his hand, and as he thinks to himself, he knows this is the day to put all his sharpened weapons on display. At the same time, he feels a bit embarrassed admitting that the skill he's practiced so hard feels more like a cheat code, one he can't just stop using. He knows something has changed since the audition because his heart can now hold 2 emotions instead of 1, but he still can't figure out why the will of the wisps has doubled. He weighs different guesses about whether grinding his mind and body to the brink of his new gambling life or simply practicing until he mastered it caused the change. Yet no matter how hard he tries, he can't prove which one it was. Finally, he stops looking for answers and just feels good about being able to hold 2 feelings at once. Then he notices a blue glow in his hand and starts imagining biting and tearing it apart with a chuckle, convinced that if he figures out how to do it, he could probably make the power even bigger. His phone suddenly rings, and when he picks up to greet the caller, he confirms that he is Lee Tu and the one who came to audition. When someone asks about his agency, he honestly admits that he doesn't have one. After hearing more, he asks the caller how they got his number. The caller, who turns out to be the chief, says he got the contact info from one of the audition judges, producer Gi Cho. He then introduces himself as Jang Yong-hoo, a director at YKB Entertainment, and lets her know he saw 2 at the audition venue earlier. To realize who he was talking to and, feeling a bit surprised, asked if this was the man in the black suit who had been standing next to the person with sunglasses. Just as they were talking, 2's phone ran out of power and the call cut off, leaving 2 and the chief frustrated. Once the call hangs up, the CEO asks the chief exactly what just happened. The chief told the CEO that the call dropped right after he said he was a director at YKB. So the boss thought 2 was just playing hard to get, which only made the big misunderstanding about him worse.